Welcome to Speedy Walkthroughs, where we show just the important stuff to beating the game. For first time viewers, this will look different to a normal walkthrough. It'll show just the essentials, so you don't need to spend a long time watching this video. I won't talk about fighting specific enemies unless they're very difficult, but I will show you where to go and what to do. Today we're playing Chrono Trigger, which is an excellent RPG released for the Super Nintendo by Square. It's all about time travel, and we're going to be getting through the game today. If you end up finding this video useful, then please consider subscribing to the channel as it helps out a lot, and I hope to have more videos coming out like it soon. The first decision you have starting the game is an active or wait battle timer. I'd highly recommend wait just because it gives you a little bit more time to make your moves. I'm also going to recommend you keep the characters as their default name just because it helps you if you're looking up on this video or an online guide. It helps you know which characters they're actually talking about. That's just a personal preference though. So Chrono Trigger is a pretty expansive game. There's lots of things to do to consider it being 100% complete, so to speak, and there's also multiple different endings. What we'll be doing in this video is I'll take you through how to get from the start to the end of the game, and I'll talk a little bit about what you could do to 100% it, but our main goal is getting through the core content of the game and then getting what I consider to be the best ending. First thing that's going to happen in the game is you're going to wake up and you'll be directed to go to the fair. So we're going to hop out of bed, exit the house, and then we're going to head up to this fair here. In the fair we're going to meet Marle in the top little bit. Marle will drop her pendant. Now there's a really cool bit about the start of this game. Eventually you're accused of kidnapping Marle, and various actions here will cause various different things to happen in a court case that happens later. So if you want to get not guilty in that court case, you might choose to make options that you would consider to be good character choices. So for example, not trying to sell her pendant here would be an example of that. It doesn't matter too much if you get guilty or not guilty though, because you only get a few extra items if you get not guilty. So you talk to the shopkeeper and try and sell the pendant. I've also bought an iron blade, which I'm going to equip to Chrono. You can equip various different things like swords and shields and armors, and we'll talk about those as we get through the game. If you talk to the shopkeeper and then that other person that I talked to, you'll be ready to go and see the demonstration here. And Marle will want to stop and grab some candy, so we'll do that as well. Eventually she'll be able to buy her candy, and then you'll head up these stairs to the main area. Now this is a really long cutscene, so I'll skip through it quite a bit, but essentially what happens is it's a teleporter machine, and Marle tries to step onto it here, but Marle ends up, instead of teleporting, going back in time, and that was due to the pendant that she has. So you're sort of going to step on the teleporter too to try and go in and save her, and we're going to be taken back to, we don't know it yet, but it'll be the year 600 AD. The game is set as though the present time is 1000 AD, so this will be 400 years in the past. We're sort of on a journey to find Marle here. We're going to get into our first proper battle with these blue imps, and you've got a couple options to attack them. You've got your normal attack, and you can use that as many times as you want, but you've also got this tech menu underneath attack. Now you can see Chrono's got 8 MP there, and every time you use a tech, that uses up some MP. So tech is sort of a stronger attack. You want to save that for maybe big groups of enemies that you want to kill quickly, or stronger enemies that you're having trouble killing. This game's all about balancing your use of attack versus tech. For these first few fights, I tend to just use attack because the tech isn't too much quicker anyway. Chrono has just learned a tech called Cyclone, which is really good. It hits multiple enemies in one turn, as long as those enemies are physically close to each other. So that's the other factor about this game. The enemies will move around as you're battling, and if they can get closer and closer to each other, you'll eventually be able to use Cyclone to hit multiple enemies at once. Later on in the game, we'll see when we get multiple characters, you can also have double tech and triple tech, which is pretty fun. So we're going to go into the castle here, so through that forest, and then we're going to sort of head up to this main area here. We got the Queen here, so we're going to head up the stairs eventually. So we talk to the King. And then we're going to go and sleep in the Knight's quarters like he suggested that we do. Sleeping here is very good because it'll restore your health and MP, so it's good if you get the opportunity to stay in an inn or stay in a bed somewhere. It's always good to take that opportunity. So essentially what we're going to do is climb these stairs to the right. There's a couple of treasures you can get along the way, like this one. Tonics are very good, they'll restore a bit of health. But essentially we're going to head through to the Queen's room. It turns out the Queen is actually Marle, so Marle just happens to look very much like the Queen. It ends up that Marle is actually a descendant of the Queen. So the Queen ends up being Marle's great-great-great-grandmother or something along those lines. But at any rate, Marle is about to disappear here. And the issue with Marle disappearing is that, well, because she showed up and the queen was missing, they stopped looking for the queen, essentially. So the queen's still missing, and the queen ends up dying in this timeline. And if the queen's dead, then Mal would never have been born. So that's obviously going to cause us a bit of an issue here. What we've got to do now that Mal has disappeared is sort of go and save the actual queen. So Luca will come here and sort of explain all this stuff that I've just explained there as well. Yeah, we'll chug through Luca's explanation here. She sort of talks about the concept of having children, and that Mal is the descendant of the queen. Now that Mal's here, the queen never got saved in this timeline. So we're going to talk to this Chancellor here. Then he'll walk out kind of suspiciously, so we'll follow him out here. Now that we've talked to the Chancellor, that kind of activates the next part of the story. So we're going to head back down through the forest here. I'm hugging these trees very closely, and that's how I managed to be avoiding all the fights. The fights in this game are only triggered if you step on particular parts of the map. So we want to go up here and talk to this person. You'll then see this flashing thing on the floor. Grab that. It's the hairpin, so it's pretty sus that the Queen's hairpin is in there. Turns out we were right to be sus because these enemies are here. Now, Chrono has this Cyclone tech. You can see I'm attacking both enemies at once. So when you select that Cyclone tech, you can change the hand cursor around to select which enemies you want to attack. And if you can attack multiple enemies, it'll sort of blink over both enemies there. You can see there I managed to attack 3, and that's because those 3 were close enough. It just all comes down to how those 3 sort of move in relation to each other as to whether you can hit multiple with one hit there. But you want to use a different combination of MP and then just normal attacks. Eventually you will get those double techs that I talked about before, and Chrono and Luca learn a very good one called Firewhirl. So Firewhirl is almost like a more powerful version of this Cyclone attack that we've been doing. But you have to wait till you're leveled up a little bit more to learn those other techs. So Luca suggests there's a secret switch here, and it turns out that's playing the piano. But first of all, we've got to meet Frog. Frog is another character that we'll have along. So I'll meet various characters in this game, and I'd encourage you as you're playing to have a feel about which ones you like playing as, because our maximum number of characters to use at a time will be 3. So eventually, once we get more than 3 characters on board, we're going to have to get rid of 1 or 2 until we get down to 3. So you're going to go up here and play the piano, and that will open a secret door on the top right there. We'll go through the door, and this is sort of the first dungeon area of the game. I can usually avoid most of these enemies here, so that's what I'll be doing. But if you get into battles, it's not a bad thing because you're just going to be leveling up. You can see us picking up lots of items like the maiden suit, for example. Here in the menu, I might actually just click back there. In the menu, you can see we're opening up this menu and going over. With the weapon, for example, there's no weapons to select on the left, so airgun is the best choice here. But with the Karate G, you can select the maiden suit as well. Now, if I hover over that, you'll see it's a 27 on defense, whereas it was 19 before. So that's going to increase our defense by 8. And the number will go blue, like that top left number there, whenever you've got an increase there. So this game makes it really easy to tell whether you're going to equip something good or something bad based on whether that number goes up or down. It's very generous in that sense. The only thing that's a bit ambiguous is the accessories. You sort of have to judge whether you want to use those. Again, we're going to put the Steel Saver on Chrono. Usually a weapon is for a particular character, so you don't have to make too many difficult choices, really. We've got a power tab there as well. Now, power tab is just an item you can use, and that'll up your power on the character, like their attack power. So I'm going to use those on Chrono quite a bit, because what we'll find is we use Chrono for most of this game. Chrono will pretty much always be with us, but the other 2 characters will usually be swapping out. So I like to sink a lot of resources into Chrono for that reason. Alright, we're going to have these 2 chests here. And we're just sort of raiding this area before we go through the main bit. I'm going to head up through this middle section. And now this is a bit of a loop that we got to do here. You'll fall down these stairs, it's like a trap, and then you just got to do a big loop around the room. You hit that switch, you grab these chests, and then you'll hit this other switch on the wall here. And then we're going to head down through and go up to this center area. You do have to get into this fight here, and I'd recommend using Firewhirl if you have it. Frog ends up having some healing abilities, which is really good. So Slurp is an excellent healing ability there. You can see he's used Slurp on Luca, and that's restored about 40 HP to Luca. So it's a nice way to restore health without relying on items like tonics and stuff. Because if you can use Slurp, it'll save you a bit of money buying those items, really. So my advice would be to have a healer in your party. In this example, it's Frog, who's our healer. And whenever you want to heal, just use their tech to heal yourself. And that'll save you a bunch of money on items. You can actually also use Slurp outside of a battle. So if you want to do that, you just pause the game and go into the tech menu. and in that tech menu you can use slurp if you'd like to. So you don't feel like you have to always heal up characters in a battle, even though I did just then. In fact, it's often better to heal up outside of battle if you can, because it'll use up turns in the battle if you heal in a battle. Alright, so we're just going to keep attacking these, and then we should make it through. Eventually you'll beat this battle, and then you're going to play the piano. I'm just slurping all the allies so that they can restore their health. So Iron Sword is very good. That's an item for Frog. We're going to put that on, and then we're going to play the piano here. And that opens up the door at the back of this area. So we'll just head through there. Alright, so here you can see the real queen is there and the chancellor. So we're going to get into a big boss fight here with the chancellor. Alright, so you can pretty much just attack this boss normally. I'm going to use sword attacks with Chrono and Frog and Luca because, well, they're pretty strong. I tend to avoid tech here too much, just because tech at this point in the game is really useful attacking big groups of enemies, but not so much for attacking one individual boss. But later on we'll get tech that's really good against bosses as well. Alright, so I'm sort of using Frog to slurp all the allies and heal them up as Chrono and Luca are dealing damage here, and that's a general strategy you'll see throughout the game. One thing that you have to watch out for when fighting bosses is just in case they have something like a counter attack, which they'll usually make it pretty obvious if they're going to do that. So you'll pretty much keep this pattern going for a long time. You're just going to keep attacking the boss and whatnot. And eventually you'll deal enough damage that you beat it. But as you can see, healing up with Frog is pretty much essential here, because otherwise we would have died a long time ago. So when you beat the boss, it's going to flash the screen white, and then you know you've won. Again, there's going to be a big cutscene here with everyone being saved. And you want to open those two chests there, and then you'll head back to the castle. So Frog's going to leave us for now, and then we want to head back up to where Mal disappeared. That's up the stairs in the castle. So pretty much where you talk to the king, you just go up and right from there and keep going up the stairs. So we'll talk to Mal and she'll reappear. Now that Mal's reappeared, we're going to head back out of the castle. And Frog will be there. Say goodbye to Frog and we'll head back through the forest. Now going back through the forest, we're basically making our way back to the time portal. So out of the forest, we're going to head up to this canyon here and then walk up through. This will be where we originally went back in time. So we're going to go across this bridge here and go into that portal. There it is. And so we're heading back. Alright, so we're back in this town square where we originally sort of went back in time at first. And we're supposed to take Mal home to the castle, so that's exactly what we're going to do. So Mal is actually the princess in this time, so she's the descendant of the old queen. So she's in royalty in this game. So we're supposed to take her back to the castle, but when we get there we'll see it's not a great situation. So they're basically accusers of kidnapping Mal here. So they arrest us and we go to this court case. There's nothing you can do at this point to change the outcome, but if you did generally good actions in the original part of the game, you're going to get not guilty. And if you did bad actions, you're going to get guilty. So it doesn't really matter too much. The story progresses exactly the same regardless. It's just if you get not guilty, what's going to happen is you'll have a few items there sort of helping you out. Like a couple tonics in your cell and stuff. But you'll get arrested and you'll go to jail. There's a cup there you can use to heal yourself up and a save point. Make sure you save there. It's really good to save whenever you can in this game as well, just because if you die, you will go back to the last save. You knock on the bars for a little while and then you talk to these guards. They didn't take Chrono's sword away when they put him in jail, which was pretty silly to be honest. So we just take out the guards like that. Anyway, once we've taken out the guards, you can try and open the left door. But the door doesn't open all the way, so you can't do anything with that now. But basically, the way we're going to progress up this tower is we're going to sort of head left and right as much as we can before heading up. We're in this area where we can pull the switch, and we'll get into this fight here. And we're just going to head up through. There's a couple of treasures in here. You can then beat Omicron and head back across the bridge. Then you're going to go in between these two guys. If you manage to squeeze in between, you can get through them without getting into the fight. If you do get into the fight, just try and hit them when their shield is down. So we're going to go into this cell and fight this skeleton. And then there's not really a whole lot else we can do in here. We can try and open that cell, but it will not really open properly. So you just want to head to the right now. Going to head across this bridge, get into a fight. Then head across here, get into another fight. And then here. You can free this guy. I'm pretty sure what happens when you free this guy is he owns a shop in a town, and then like he'll sell stuff to you for cheaper or whatever. So it's a good idea to free him. Alright, so equipping what we just picked up there, then we're going to head back across the other bridge. Then we're going to head down through these stairs. So there's some more treasures in here, we're going to grab that. Then we're going to head up through these guards and left. Now this has a pretty cool section where you're sort of climbing down the outside wall of the jail, and you get a pretty good item here, so I would recommend doing this little bit and getting that item. So you sort of go through here, and then you end up in this cell, but there's also a hole you can go down in this cell, so we'll do that. And then in here we get a good sword. It's called the Load Sword, and it's for Chrono, and it's pretty powerful. And given that we have a boss coming up very soon, it's going to be a great idea for us to actually get that. So anyway, we climb back up the wall, and those two cells that we just went into were the two cells that we couldn't open before. So we sort of checked out everything we can in the jail here. Anyway, we're going to come up into this main area, and we'll get into a little fight here. And then Luca's going to come through and try and save us. And then we sort of go across the bridge and we get into this dragon tank battle. So with the dragon tank, you want to hit its head first. I just do that with your normal attacks. So just keep hitting its head. Eventually its head should break. And what I like to do is hit its wheel. So you'll just keep doing that, sort of hitting the wheel, hitting the body. But as long as the head's beaten, that's the main part, because the head will actually restore the dragon's health as you're fighting it. So you want to get rid of that as quickly as you can. Once the dragon's completely beaten, the bridge is going to collapse, and these three will create another little bridge for you. Then escape from the castle, and you're going to run out. Miles going to try and stop them, but is unsuccessful. So they're going to essentially chase you down through this forest here to the right, and you're going to go through this portal. This portal will take us to the future. So I think this is the year like 2300 or something like that. You're going to head down to this dome first. Now there's a shopkeeper here, so this is a really good opportunity to buy all these equipables that you can get. So you can sort of see on the bottom there, it tells you which characters can use them and whether they'll be good or not. If the character's jumping up and down, then they can use that equipable. So get all these, and you can sell all the old equipment you're not using anymore. I'd encourage you to also buy some tonics and mid-tonics, because you're going to need those as we go on. Anyway, there's this other thing in this area called the Entron. And the Entron, you can sleep in there and it'll restore your health and MP, but you're still hungry after using it, unfortunately. So we're going to head up here through Lab 16. Just be aware there are some enemies here that physical attacks don't work on. So if you go to attack enemies and you find that your attacks aren't working, it's probably because you need to use tech instead of attack. Just be aware of that. But anyway, we'll make our way through. This lab is fairly linear. Just be careful of the rats. The rats will steal items from you. You really want to avoid those. Alright, so we're heading through the lab. And then we're sort of out of the lab here. So we're going to go into this dome. And this dome has this like big underground area we're going to go through. So everyone in this dome is pretty hungry, as is everyone in the future really. And they've asked us to go down there and try and get some food. They wouldn't dare go down there because it's pretty dangerous. So that's what we're going to do. We'll just heal up in the Entron here. And we'll just check out and talk to everyone. So this is another shop, but it has pretty much the same stuff as the original shop had, so don't worry too much about it. We'll head downstairs. Alright, so there's like a secret code to access that right terminal. You have to hold the L button, the R button, and then press A. But I'm pretty sure that code doesn't work until you actually find the code in-game. So you'll get into this and you've got this boss fight. Essentially all you need to do with this boss is attack the bits on the side. And then once you've beaten the little bits on the side, you can attack that center bit. Alright, it's going to have a big countdown, and then after that countdown's over, it's going to restore the allies, so then just keep hitting the allies, pretty much. So kill the bits on the side, then kill the center bit. Once you've done that enough times, you'll beat the boss altogether. So we're going to go in here and get this little item. The item we're going to get, I think you get like a seed which they plant, and that's supposed to grow into food. But he's saying that the rat is the secret. So you got to catch the rat, and the rat will tell you the password. So you hold L and R, and you press A there, and then you'll make it through. Here you just want to dodge all the enemies and sort of make your way up the stairs. We're going to head up through this room, and then down, and then up again. And we're going to go across all these stairwells. And we're going to end up in this room up here. Now, this is probably the most important part of the game plot-wise. We're going to get a little picture of what happened in the year 1999. Now, it's not good what happened in the year 1999. Essentially, it was the end of the world. So, the whole goal of the game is to beat this enemy called Lavos. Larvos causes the end of the world in 1999. And this is sort of the picture of what happened here. So that's why the future is sort of this post-apocalyptic world that we're in at the moment. But yeah, that's the big bad guy of Chrono Trigger is Lavos, and we're going to find various ways that we can beat him. That's sort of why there's multiple endings to this game, because it depends what time you beat Lavos in, like what time period. But anyway, so everyone's sort of freaking out because they saw Lavos. Then we're just going to sort of run out of this area here. And we're going to return the seed to these guys, so they'll hopefully plant it and grow some food. But we're going to leave this area now. So I'm going to take a little detour through the sewers. You don't have to do this area yet, but you do have to do this area at some point in the game. I like to do it earlier on. The reason for that is you're fighting and killing these enemies anyway. So you might as well do this area earlier on and kill the weaker enemies to get experience. And that way you're sort of more leveled up for later in the game. So that's why I'm doing it now. But I'm going to get through this fight and then collect that chest just in the top right there. Then we're going to head back through the sewer. So we'll head to the left and then down. There's no bridge there, so we're just going to head down through this area. Go to the right. Now, in this area, you only get into fights if you actually disrupt the items. So, for example, if you click on those items there, you get into these fights. So we'll just be zooming through this one pretty quickly. Now, in this room, you're going to see from the back of the door, it says you need to go back around and press the switch. So you'll go back around and press the switch. So here you go to the right, and then that switch there opens the door for you. So you're just going to go through there. You'll see a little cutscene with these guys. Then we're going to head up and around. You're going to come across this dude. It's like a mini-boss kind of thing. Just keep attacking it, you'll win. And we're going to head down here. So if we keep heading down, we're going to get the switch to open up the bridge. And the beauty of opening these bridges is it creates a shortcut for us to get back to this area later. So we're going to put the bolt sword on Chrono and then make our way up through this. And now that sort of brings us out into this main area. We don't really need to do much in this dome here at the moment. There's not a whole lot we can do. But this dome will be really important for later on in the game. So it's important that we're able to get here. Alright, that's pretty much all we can do is talk to those characters. So we're just going to head back out through the sewer. And then we'll go on with the intended storyline. So you're going to head up to this area. Now, in this area, you're going to get into a car race with this dude. My advice would be sort of to stick in front of him and let him bonk you from the back. And then you can use B to boost. So you're going to save your boost for towards the end of the race, and then hopefully you'll win. Now, if you win against him, nothing really much happens. You just get to the end. If you lose, you get back to this side. But if you lose, you can just walk across the ruins normally. You don't have to race him again. So you can see I'm sort of like sitting in front of him and letting him bonk me from the back. And then I'm going to save my boost for towards the end. And as long as you're ahead of him when you hit the finish line, that's all that needs to happen here. Alright, now that we're done with that, we're going to head out. You're going to head down into this dome here, and that's where we're going to meet our friend Robo. So I'll just zoom through these couple fights here. I think there's an Entron in that corner there if you want to use it and restore some MP and HP. But at any rate, we see this broken down robot, and this is called Robo. So Luca's sort of going to fix up Robo, and then we're going to go on a little adventure with him. So you're going to leave one character behind here. Now, I like leaving Mal behind in this situation, because up till now, Mal has been our healer. She's got lots of healing powers. But it turns out that Robo has something called Heal Beam, which is pretty much just as good. So Robo will now be our healer, but Robo also has some really awesome attacks. So in particular, he's got this attack called Laser Spin, one of his techs, and that hits all enemies on screen. It's not super powerful, but it's really good if you have a lot of weak enemies. And we'll see later on, Laser Spin is really good, especially when we go to the past. Robo is very good against enemies that are in the past as well. But if you want to be a little bit safer with healing and stuff, you can grab Mal here and use her. We're going to go onto this conveyor belt and get pulled in by this hand, and then we're essentially going to get into a bunch of fights. So this is where the tech with Chrono and Luca can be really helpful. They have Firewell as a combined tech together, so you might want to use that quite a bit. You might also want to use Robo's Laser Beam as you go through. But we'll skip past these fights, and then we'll go on with the rest of this little factory area. So eventually you're going to get through the fights. I think there's 3 fights in total, and each fight has slightly more robots in it. You got this fight here down. It's pretty easy to just do like a cyclone attack and take out all those. Then going to head up here. And we'll look at this TV. That gives us the crane control. So it's XA and then BB. So we'll come out this area here, and that's going to bring us to the crane area. So you want to hit XA first on your SNES controller, and that'll pick up the first barrel there. Now, the barrels are blocking your way before, so that's why you want to pick them up. Next one you want to hit is BB, and that'll move the second barrel. With both barrels out of the way, we can actually make our way to the area we want to get to. So you head out of that room and just go to the left. Then we see this screen, and it said the password is Zaby. Now, Zaby kind of stands for XABY, so that's the password you'll enter on your SNES controller there. So we're going to head up this lift and then back to the left. And we head around this area. So you've got to talk to this screen here, but unfortunately that'll start a battle with acids and alkalines. With these, you generally want to avoid using tech against them. The best thing you can do is just keep attacking them normally. The green ones are a little bit weaker than the red ones, so they're usually fairly easy to kill. So once you've beaten this battle, you're going to talk to the screen, and that will unlock the stairs leading down. Alright, now that we're heading down, we're just going to get through this area here. There's a little treasure chest behind there with a Titan Vest. Titan Vest is very good, and so is Hammer Arm. And I'm just healing up with Robo. Turn that screen on to avoid the lasers. And then we're going to get into a very big battle with acids and alkalines. These battles will take pretty long because they've got very high defense, but the battles aren't too scary. There's a little stairwell here that you can take, so we're just going to head up into this section. Grab the plasma gun for Luca, and then we're going to talk to this screen here. That'll open up the door there. And then you want to talk to this big old structure in the middle. Then we've got to leg it. The whole place is sort of shutting down, so we run down, then we run left up those stairs. Then we want to come out here. And here's probably one of the most emotional scenes in the game. All these 6 robots are claiming that Robo is defective because he's helping humans, so they sort of beat him up and put him in a real bad shape. Then we also have to fight these 6 robots with just Chrono and Luca, so it's pretty full on, this scene. But at any rate, you just want to firewell each group of 3. That's what I really recommend. And if you can't firewell them, then maybe just cyclone them. But at any rate, you'll beat them in 2 cyclones. And then the fight should be pretty much done. Just remember, you can use items like tonics in battle if you want to heal yourself up as well. That is an option for you. But once this fight's done, we're sort of going to save Robo and try and bring him back to where we originally found him. Luca's going to do a bunch of work and heal up Robo. So it all worked out okay in the end. And we're going to go through this portal and head through it. But the weird thing is we got 4 characters heading through this portal. And the game really doesn't like 4 characters going through a portal. So that brings us to somewhere called the End of Time. Now the End of Time is sort of the hub area of the game. It's going to be where we come back to pretty much every point from now on. So the old dude's sort of here, and he will tell us a bit about the End of Time. Then eventually, once he's finished talking, he's going to say we need to go into this room up the top. So up the top of the room, there's this dude called Specchio, and he teaches us magic. So we're going to go into there. He then asks us to run clockwise around the room 3 times, so we're going to do that. And then once you've done all 3 times, you can come back up and talk to Specchio, and he'll congratulate you and then have a battle with you and teach you magic. So I'm going to teach magic to Chrono and Mal here. I'm also going to teach magic to Luca. Unfortunately, Robo can't learn magic. So have a battle with Specchio, learn some magic, and every time you get a new character, for example, we'll get Frog back later, you want to come straight here and learn magic with whatever new character you get. So we're going to come through with Luca as well. And then my party from here is going to be Chrono, Luca, and Robo. So we're going to go into this top portal, and that brings us back to Medina Village, 1000 AD, and that's sort of where the story progresses from. So we're back into the present, but we're not in the same area that we were before. So this is sort of all the way across the ocean compared to where we were before in the game. So what we're hoping to do is sort of make it back to where we started the game. There's lots of different things to check out in Medina Village. For example, this area is really creepy. It's got all these guys worshipping a statue of Magus. We'll find out who Magus is a little bit later on, but he's sort of like the bad guy of this section of the game. Especially in this particular time period, like the 600 AD and the 1000 AD. I think 600 is where he's actually living. So we're going to talk to Melchior here and buy anything we need. Melchior's a pretty key critical character because he's like a swordsmith, so we'll be coming back here quite a bit. Once you've bought all the things that you need, you can heal up in town or go to the shop and buy stuff or whatever. But essentially, you can check this out as well. Essentially, you just want to head up through this cave by Melchior's house. This cave will be sort of the main bit that we go through next in the game. So grab any treasures you find along the way and then essentially just follow the path that I'm taking through here. Alright, so come out into this main area and get into a lot of battles here. Robo's laser beam is very handy for dealing with big groups of enemies as well. We're going to head down through here. And I believe there's an item in this area. So you're just going to grab that. Then head back out. And we'll go to the left. And there's sort of a door there that we'll be able to go through after this battle. Through the door. And then we're going to head down into this water section. You then head up through this staircase here. And we're sort of approaching a boss. So I'm going to cure beam everyone with Robo there. If you do run out of MP, you can also use something called an ether, and that will help you restore MP as well. So I'm going to be using lightning on this dude. Lightning's pretty good. And so is fire, so we're just going to keep using those magics. I'm going to use rocket punch with Robo, but it's not very good, so eventually we'll just be using Robo to heal up. Lightning and fire are the way to go for this one, really. So you'll see the boss do this thing and he says, go ahead, try and attack. If you attack the boss here, it does like a really hectic, powerful counter attack, which is pretty dangerous. So what we do is we use that time to heal up instead. So it says brief counter attack break, and that means we can sort of go back to attack normally. So that's what we're going to keep doing. Lots of magic attacks here are the way to go. So that's pretty much the way the fight goes. You attack with magic. He does this go ahead, try and attack thing. Make sure you don't attack him here. And then you just keep going. Eventually you'll beat him. Now once you've beaten this boss, you sort of go into this whirlpool. And that spits us right out next to Luca's house. And this is sort of the area where we started the game. So even if we wanted right now, we could go back to Chrono's house. What I've done here is I've sort of just gone through this time portal. That sort of activates it in this section. So now we're going to go back to Truce Canyon. So going into that portal, because it was like a two-way thing, sort of activates this bit. And we need to go back into 600 AD to progress the story. So you want to take that sort of area that I did there. Anyway, we'll make our way out of Truce Canyon, and when you get out of here, you got to go down and left to this bridge. On the bridge, there's going to be soldiers there, and they're saying they want their rations. So to get their rations, you have to go back up to the castle. So we'll make our way up through Grudia Forest and end up in the castle. Once we get in here, we're going to go to the right into the chef's quarters. Now we'll talk to the chef here, and he's not going to give us the rations. He's just going to be like freaking out and stuff. But if we leave the room and try and lead back to the bridge, the chef will then run out and give us rations. This is probably one of the most confusing parts of the game, because like, who would think to go and get rations from a chef? But that's what you do to progress the story, so there you go. Anyway, once you're out of here, you're going to make it back through the forest, and then we're going to head down through the bridge. I'm just going to go to the inn and stay the night, just to restore a bit of health, because there's a couple of boss fights on this bridge. So then we give them the rations. It's like beef jerky, so it must be like real filling beef jerky if it can feed that many soldiers, but there you go. So we're going to go through the bridge. We'll see these skeletons. I'm using lightning attacks on the skeletons a lot, and that seems to be pretty effective. So more and more skeletons. You got Ozzy as well. And we're going to make our way to the left, and then he has this super skeleton monster thing. Alright, so the strat for this is use lightning it. So I'm attacking the bottom half of its body a lot, and you can see I'm dealing a lot of damage that way with lightning, fire, and rocket punch. So if you can keep going about it that way, you should make it through this fight pretty easily. Alright, so eventually you'll beat the bottom of this enemy, and then the top will be left. So that's why we swapped to normal attacks. It must have been that magic wasn't as powerful there. Alright, and then you beat the boss and you can head down. So we're going to head down into this area. We'll go to the market. I'd encourage you to buy up some mid-tonics and revives. They're going to be pretty useful later on in the game. Shelters are also really good, and I'd encourage you to stock up on shelters quite a lot. What shelters do is whenever you're at a save point, it lets you restore all your health and magic and everything. So it's pretty good to have. I'm just going around talking to a few people. There's this legend of the Masamune sword, which we're going to find out about pretty soon. Talking to a whole bunch of townspeople there, sleeping in the inn. But eventually, when you're ready, you can head down to this town here. I'm also going to talk to Fiona, but that's not really super important. I'm going to head into this forest here called the Cursed Woods. Now, it turns out that Frog is actually hanging out in this forest here. So he's just in this little bush, and we can sort of talk to him in his house. So Frog's all sad. He reckons he can't help, so that's pretty unfortunate. We're just going to head out of the forest and then back down. We're going to go to the nearby town, just bottom and right of the forest. Alright, so in this town, I'm just checking out all the various houses. You can buy some equipables here, like the maiden suit and load sword. So it's really good. Just check out what's best for your characters based on what you can see on the bottom there. All this stuff's pretty good. Like, the gold suit is really fantastic because it gives lots of defense. So you go around town and you sort of hear about all the rumors of the hero here. You go to the elder's house. You talk to all these different people. But essentially, what you're going to do is head up to this area. And this is the next main area of the game to go to. So you'll see the legendary hero, which is actually just this little kid here. Now these goblins, they're sort of weird. If they've got a hammer, then you've got to hit them with lightning. Sorry, fire, not lightning first. So the fire sort of burns away the hammer there. So that's sort of what you want to do. Luca can have fire for you, so make sure you have Luca in your party. There you go, the fire there does a bit of damage, but more importantly, it burns away the hammer, and then once you've burnt away the hammer, all your attacks are like probably 5 to 10 times stronger, so it's pretty effective. You just want to follow the path that I'm following essentially through here. You'll get into a lot of fights. Just remember, if they're normal, you can attack them normally, but if they've got a hammer, hit them with Luca's fire first, and then attack them. Alright, so we're going to head through this area. And you'll make your way up. This section up here has a lot of different fights. You'll just progress your way through all those. Now, if you want, when you get to the end of this section, you can fall down a waterfall. And the navigation after falling down the waterfall is really confusing. So I'll show you what it looks like in full. Of course, once we get to the end of this fight, that'll be starting. So at the end of this fight, what we're going to do is grab this treasure, but then fall down the left waterfall. That way we can get this treasure here. Then we're going to jump off there. And we're into this really weird area of the map. What we actually need to do once we equip everything, we're going to head out of this area. So through the trees there, but then straight back up, and it brings us to like a different area. So like going backwards through the warp doesn't do the same thing as going forwards through the warp. It's really strange, but that's how you get out of the waterfall area. Alright, so we'll keep going on with this. There's a save point there. So if you bought any shelters before, I'd encourage you to use them now. Shelters are a really powerful item, and once you've got a whole bunch of shelters, you'll find that you barely ever use inns or beds or anything anymore, because using a shelter at a save point is pretty much exactly the same as using an inn or a bed or something like that. I'm going to use a lot of the speed tabs that I'm getting on Robo, just because Robo is a very slow character, and a lot of his attacks are really good and we want to use them. So we're coming up to Masa and Mune, and they're guarding this sword called the Masamune. So we want to get that sword. So the fight sort of goes into two phases. First, you're going to fight Masa and Mune separately, and we'll see what that looks like. So you sort of go through and attack them. The tech that I'm using is lightning on a lot of them. And then they'll do sort of this cross counter attack. I'm also going to use Fire Punch on that right one too. So I'm aiming to take out one of them before the other. So Luca and Robo, they are using the combined tech. It's like this fire punchy one, and then Chrono's just going to be using lightning over and over. And if we keep slugging away at that, then they'll eventually combine into Masamune. Then we're going to use Cyclone from Chrono. And we're going to use Robo Tackle and Fire. So that's sort of the attacks that can deal a lot of damage to Masamune. When I was doing this playthrough, I was doing a lot of trial and error about which attacks were the best to use. So if you copy pretty much the attacks that I'm using, I can't guarantee they'll be the best, but they'll do a lot of damage. Alright, it's going to store Tornado Energy and eventually let that out, which can be pretty scary, but just keep attacking it really. Alright, eventually you'll beat it and you'll get this piece of the Masamune's sword, which is very exciting. So it's only half of it, the actual sword itself is broken. So eventually we're going to go and see Melchior. But before we can actually go and see Melchior, we've got to get the other half of the sword. So we'll talk to the Elder here. And we'll go to Tartar's house. The dad's kind of annoyed that he's not a legendary hero, and then he says that like a frog came, so he's kind of alluding to the fact about Frog there. So now that we know about Frog, we're going to go back into the forest up here, and then we'll see Frog. Alright, so if you check that jar there, there's sort of like the other half of the Masamune there. Frog's just like keeping it in his house. And the sword says in backwards Melchior, so the implication is that we go and see Melchior. So that's pretty much what we're going to do. We're going to head back up to this top area with Trees Canyon. We're going to go through the time portal, and that's going to bring us to 1000 AD. Well, it'll really bring us to the end of time here, and you step in the other one to get to 1000 AD. And you really want to go to Medina village in particular, because that's where Melchior is. Alright, so we have a chat to him, but he says, like, pretty much he can't do anything until he's got this redstone stuff. So he's like, where do you get the redstone? He said it'll be a long time ago. So what you actually want to do at this point is go to Mystic Mountain. Now, I would really recommend having Robo in your party at this point. The party that I've got here is pretty ideal here, but Robo in particular is good, and you'll see why in this fight coming up. You got these Reptite enemies, and if you use Laser Spin, it kills all of them in one hit, and it is so good. I guess the idea is because Robo is so far from the future, he's really good against people from the past. So we're going to meet a new character here called Ayla. So Ayla will swap out for one of the people in your party. I think that I swap her out for Luca when we pick her up. But right now, she's just going to be leading us to the village. So we're going to still be Robo, Chrono, and Luca for now. Keep working your way down, and you're going to make your way towards the village. If you go towards the chief's hut on the top left, Ayla is going to be there. And she says there's a big party happening here. So what you need to do in this party is you need to talk to your two partners quite a few times. So Robo and Luca in our case. So I'm just going to go around and talk to everyone. But eventually, if you talk to Robo and Luca enough, you'll get into this like soup drinking contest. So you say yes, and then you just go like tap the A button real fast, and you can drink the soup. If you can drink it faster than Ayla, then you win the soup drinking contest. Alright, you wake up, and then there's been some theft happening. So you're going to go and scope out the Reptites. You got Ayla in your party, so you can see that I've kept Chrono, Robo, and Ayla. You can sort of buy stuff in this hut and like heal up pretty close to here as well. So make sure you're healing up before you go into this forest. I think it's the bottom right hut that heals you up. Anyway, we make our way through the forest here. We're just going to go right through the trees. And just follow the path that I'm taking here, really. Now I'm actually going around and collecting all the treasure chests as well, which is a good thing to do if you can. Again, you'll probably be getting into a lot of fights in this area with enemies, but if you know where to walk, you can avoid most of those fights, actually. So then we head into the Reptite Lair. We're going to go down this hole here, and the next one. Before you can go down this one, you fight these two guys. Now, the gimmick with dinosaurs in this game, you have to hit dinosaurs with lightning first. Once you hit them with lightning, their defense goes down, and then you can hit them with normal attacks and deal lots of damage. If you just try and do normal attacks to them, you pretty much won't be able to kill them at all. Well, you will, but it'll take like a really long time. So we're going to keep heading down these holes here. Eventually you'll end up in this room. You're going to head out the right door there. Now again, just be sure you're hitting these dinosaurs with lightning. I'd recommend whenever you see these green Reptite dudes, that's where you want to use a laser spin. So that's exactly what I'm going to do with Robo there. Laser spin everyone. Alright, so we're seeing this dude Azala here. Azala's going to bring out this beefy dude, Nizbel, and it's the same sort of strat as beating the dinosaurs. You got to hit it with lightning first, and then its defense power will decrease. So once you've done that, you can start hitting it with Ayla's normal attack and Robo's Robo Tackle. But be sure you're regularly hitting it with lightning to make sure that defense still goes back down. It will usually give you prompts whether the defense is going down or up. So we heal up and then we just rinse and repeat, really. Lightning attacks and then physical attacks, and you'll make your way through the fight. Alright, so we've done very well and we're making our way back to the village. And we're going to heal up in this hut while we can. She says to drink some water, so that's what we do. And we're going to head back up. Alright, making our way through, we're going to drop down to the time portal. There we go. Alright, so I'm going back to Medina village now. I believe we got the redstone from going through that whole ordeal, so now we can actually go and make the Masamune, which is very exciting. So we'll go to Melchior's house, and he'll be very excited. We can make the Masamune. Luca and Robo sort of help him out. So there's this big long thing about going through and helping out making the Masamune. But at the end of the day, all that happens is you get the Masamune. So now what we're going to do is go back through this time portal in the closet. We're going to go to the year 600, which is this sort of one on the top left, into Truth Canyon. We're then going to make our way out into the overworld, and we'll go down through the bridge. We're going to go back and see Frog, essentially. So down into this forest on the left, and Frog will be very excited that we've restored the Masamune. So go out to the top of the forest through here, talk to Frog, and then we can progress the story here. Alright, so Frog here is sort of going to tell his origin story. Frog was actually a human before, and then like Magus basically turned him into a frog. So Magus is the bad guy of this section of the game, and like Frog's obviously very upset that he's become a frog, so he's going to go get revenge on Magus. We have to bring Frog into the party, so I'm going to go with Chrono, Frog, and Robo. Unfortunately, Luca will not be in our party anymore. But we want to equip everything we can to Frog, and then we're going to go into Magic Cave. Now, I actually kind of made a little mistake here. I really should have got Magic with Frog at this point, but I realized in about 5 minutes and then go back and get Magic with him, but just keep that in mind. Alright, so this is like the most awesome scene in the game in my opinion. He just like rips the Masamune out of the ground and like puts the cliff in half. It's like epic. Alright, so we'll go through, and then they like make a little comment about Frog and Magic, so that's sort of where I realized and went back to the end of time to get Magic for Frog. So you head back to the time portal, go into this top room here with Specchio, and then you're going to get Magic for Frog. You can also fight Specchio while you're here. There you go. Then we're going to head back out to Truth Canyon, so that's 600 AD. We'll head back down to where we had that epic scene with breaking the cliff apart. And then we'll go into that cliff and we're ready to progress on with the game there. Alright, so we're heading to Magus's castle here. So we're just sort of going to go in there and then we'll make our way through. Alright, I'm going to go out the left side first. There's all these like clones of people you'd normally know. But once you get to the top of it, you're going to work your way back down. Then you're going to go up the right side and then work your way back down. When you get back down to the bottom, after going up both the left and the right side, you're going to see this save point, but it's not actually a save point. When you click on it, you get this cutscene here, and then Ozzy's going to be there. You'll get into this battle here, and then he sort of says you have to beat everyone in Magus's castle, so that's what we're going to go through and do. I don't think you actually have to fight everyone. All you need to do is get to the top of the left room, so that's what we're doing here. Once you get to the top of the left room, we're going to be fighting this boss here. So you can see I'm pretty much doing Robo Tackle with Robo. I'm doing X Strike with Frog and Chrono, so that's one of their double techs. When you do a double tech, just be sure that you're waiting for both people to get ready, otherwise it won't work. I'm also trying out some of those cool triple techs because, you know, it's lots of fun. And yeah, triple raid seems to be a very good idea here, so that might be one you want to keep using on this boss. Eventually you'll beat this boss. Once you've beaten this boss, you just need to head back downstairs, go to the right, and then go up that right passage rather than the left passage. Alright, heading up the right area, you're going to have this treasure chest, and then we're going to come across this boss. So this is Flea. So you can see I'm doing normal attack with Chrono there. I'm going to use Bubble Snap with those two. Bubble Snap is pretty good here. 500 damage for a double tech is not too bad. One of the reasons that I'm using normal attack with Chrono is because it looks like I'm out of MP there. So Bubble Snap is really good, but I'm sure Chrono would have some good tech as well if I had any MP to use. But eventually we'll do the same thing. We'll just chug through this fight and eventually we'll make it. Alright, we head back down. We're going to head back to that middle section, hit this save pointy thing again, and that warps us up to this main area. So we'll get into a couple fights on our way up here, but nothing major. You just want to keep going up through this section. Alright, now Ozzy's going to sort of like freak out the way here. He's got a couple puzzle rooms. The first puzzle room here is with these like slashy axe things, and you got to run past them while they're going up. Dark mail is always very good as well to have. Go. And then we're going to head up through this next room. Now, this, if you want to avoid any enemies, all you need to do when the green balls roll past you is just stop moving for a little bit. For whatever reason, the enemies in this game will only trigger fights if you are moving when they touch you. So with this room here, it looked really easy, but I'm actually taking a particular path through the floor. I'll show it a couple of times here. But essentially that path stops you from falling through the fake floors that Ozzy has put there, so it's good to know. Again, same strategy here. If you want to avoid enemies, just sort of stay still when the balls roll past you. I managed to hit that enemy, unfortunately. But it's always good to hit enemies anyway, because you get more EXP for fighting them. Alright, we're going to head up into this main area. You got a few fights here. The dudes that sort of come up off the chains. But we'll work our way through those. You're going to heal yourself up. You got these fights here. Then once we've done that, we're going to head up through this next room. Alright, again, a lot more fights, but we'll keep going through it. Make sure you healed up here, and we're going to fight Ozzy. So this fight's not too bad with Ozzy. He like makes himself invincible by putting ice around him, but it's pretty funny. All you have to do is attack the like chain things over here, and he eventually like freaks out. So you just keep attacking the 4 chains, and then you're going to get through this fight pretty easily. Alright, the floor opens up under him and he drops through, which is always pretty funny. Yeah, that's pretty much what we do. So you're going to hit this warp here, and then you're going to work your way down the stairs. Then we're actually up to the true boss of this area, which is Magus. Now Magus is sort of like the big baddie of 600 AD. He's in like a war against the village that Chrono's from. So yeah, pretty hectic fight coming up here. So it's got really awesome music as well, which is the cool part about this game. Magus has magic defense. So like he'll have a defense of a particular... Well, he'll have a weakness of a particular type of magic, and then he keeps cycling that weakness through. So you can sort of tell which one. I think it actually tells you. But at any rate, like let's suppose he uses the fire attack, then you should attack him with fire on the next turn. As you can see there, he's attacked with fire, only fire damages. Unfortunately, we don't have any fire here, so what I'm going to do is attack him again just normally. And hopefully his barrier will change a little bit. So the way that I've got it now, Chrono's got lightning, Frog's got water, and Robo has got shadow damage. Now, although Robo doesn't actually know any magic, technically his magic counts as being shadow magic. So you'll notice that when Magus can be attacked by shadow. So for example here, because lightning damages, we have to use lightning from Chrono. That's exactly what we're going to do, and that'll do quite a bit of damage to Magus. So here only shadow damages, so that's where we'll use something like laser spin from Chrono. Sorry, laser spin from Robo. So again, just keep attacking, and use whatever attack he's weak to at that particular point in time, and then you'll make it through this fight. If you don't like the attack that he's weak to, then you can just attack him normally, and his barrier should change again. Just be aware every time he changes barrier, he's going to do a very strong attack, so you sort of want to make the most of those barrier changes. Like, if he's weak to lightning, make the most of him being weak to lightning, and hit him with some lightning at that point, for example. But eventually, you'll make your way through the fight. Alright. So Magus is sort of like freaked out and put us into this big time warp, sent us back in time there. And then we're going to have to head up to the top left of town here. And they sort of say about this like top bit, so we're going to go to the dactyl nest and basically work our way up through this area. That's our next goal. Alright, so working our way up. Lots of fights with these ones. And Ayla's sort of at the top of the hill there, so she's going to summon that pterodactyl. Alright, so she's only got 3 birds, so we got to leave someone behind. So I'm going to keep Robo. I really like Robo for whatever reason. I think it's the laser spin, but also the heal beam. It's a real good combination. But eventually we fly into this Tyranno Lair, and that's sort of our next section of the game here. You go through the right mouth first. And it's another prison in the game. There's a lot of prisons in this game, and they're not very secure, as we'll find out. But we'll take Ayla through this prison anyway. You're going to open the door and let these guys out. He's sort of going to go across to the right. Head through here. Now Ayla's not happy that this person's locked up Keto, I think. So Ayla climbs over the bars and sort of like busts Keto out. And then we're going to head back through to the left. Now we go through the left mouth here. And this section has a lot of switches on the floors that sort of cause the floors to break apart. So we fall through this floor here. But eventually what you want to do is sort of like head to the left. So we're going to head to the left in this room here. You can use those little switches to put the enemies through the floor. And here you got this little trap maze. Just follow the same path that I do. You should be fine. And then we're going to head out here. We'd like to go through that middle door. But just hit the right switch there and then hit that switch. Then that's going to bring us through the middle door here. Alright, through the middle door, this dude's like flexing and having a good old time. We'll use a shelter at this save point. And then he's like, actually, I should probably fight you. So, same sort of strategy as before. You want to use lightning, which will make him weak. And then you should use sort of normal attacks with Robo and Ayla. Robo has some pretty good tech that's sort of like physical based. So, lightning and then Robo and Ayla. And that's sort of the cycle you'll go through. Anyway, we'll keep going. Eventually you'll get to the end of this fight. Alright, and you'll notice I use a shelter at the save point again there. That's because there's another boss fight coming up pretty much right now. So there, if you hit the left switch then the right switch, you're going to like be alright because the enemies will fall through and you won't have to fight them. And we're going to go up through this center area, come across this dude. Just remember, with any dinosaur-looking enemies like this one, you want to use lightning first and then use normal attacks on them. Just be really careful of that, otherwise your attacks won't do much to them. Alright, we're coming across this dude again, Azala. So he's going to like run out the back door there. And then we're going to come across him with Tyranno. So there's sort of this like red star going on in the background, and he's pretty excited about that. I like to attack Azala first, okay? So I hit him with like lightning and just like laser spin and stuff like that. But eventually you'll kill Azala. It's not too hard to do that. So that's what we'll do first. Now with this Tyranno guy, so you pretty much just copy the attacks that I'm doing. So Robo I'm using as a big healer. And eventually he'll remove defense and store power. So I've got like this combo dual tech that I'm using with Chrono and Ayla, and I've got just this other attack that I'm using with Robo. But the dinosaur will sort of count down from 5 and eventually hit 0. When it hits 0, it does this like really strong attack, and then it sort of goes into this countdown from 5 again. So actually this boss is not too scary in all honesty. Like you just let it hit 0 and it does this big attack. You'll see how hectic the attack is in a second. So I hit 0 and like, yeah, it's pretty scary the attack, but you can see it didn't kill anyone. And now the dinosaur doesn't attack again until it counts down from 5. So my advice would be with Robo, heal up all your party's HP while the dinosaur has still got very strong defense. Then eventually you're going to get this message saying the defense is lowered, and that's when you can start attacking it again. Robo's now got this thing called Heal Beam, and that heals all characters rather than just one at a time, so it's pretty useful for you to use. At any rate, you're going to get through this dinosaur boss pretty quickly. And the hardest part about it is killing Azala. Like, once you've done that, it's not too bad, in all honesty. Anyway, he's not too happy. So it turns out that red star in the background is going to crash on Earth, which is not good. Alright. So, yeah, it sort of crashes there, and it's a big old schmozzle. Stuff comes raining down with fire, and, like, Lavos is essentially what that is. So you'll remember back in the future, we saw this big old video of Larvos basically destroying the entire world. This is where Larvos came from. It crashed to Earth well and truly in the past. So it's sort of been hanging around for 65 billion years. So Larvos is pretty old. We got these pterodactyls to play with. So basically what you can do is you can go through this time gate here. This will bring us to a brand new time period, which is pretty exciting. So this is still the past, but it's not as far in the past as what we were. This is 12,000 BC. You want to go on this skyway and get ready for the absolute best song in the game, Corridors of Time. So good. But yeah, you just talk to all these people, really. You don't really need to go into this section here too much. But we can talk to this boy down here with the cat if you want to, and then sort of just like head out. You want to go down this skyway, and then you want to go into the other skyway and end up into the main area. So I'm just going to like talk to all the people here. I'll point out any key events as they come up, but you want to be working your way towards the sort of top area of the town. This is something called the Blackbird, which we'll find out more about later. We're going to go up through these two caves and into this main area house here. So this is where we're going to get the next to the story progression. So in the top right room is pretty much where you want to go first. You'll come across Janice. And then you sort of want to go to the room here, and you're going to see her opening up that door, but your pendant doesn't work to open the door. So then what you're going to do is go to the room on the left, and you're going to come across the Mammon machine, which can fire up your pendant. Now your pendant can open the door. So you'll go through the door, but yeah. So yeah, I'll go through the door here, and there's this hectic fight against the golem. Now, I was actually pretty pleased with myself. I'm sure this strat is well known, but golem copies your attacks, right? And so you can see when you do like a physical attack, it copies physics, and when you do a lightning attack, it copies lightning. So let's suppose that you're just attacking normally with these three characters. It'll copy your physical attacks, and then it'll have this really strong physical attack that it can do, and it like kills you pretty quickly. But what I figured out is if you do lightning with Chrono, and then like a physical attack with Robo and Ayla, and you just like keep swapping between lightning, physical, it never actually does that really strong attack. So it's pretty cool that it works out like that. It does have this cannonball, like iron orb attack thing, and that reduces your health by half, but you know, no matter how many times you halve your health, it's not going to hit 0, so you're pretty well safe in this fight. So that's pretty much what I do. I keep swapping the type of attack that I do between lightning versus physical, and that just makes it so the golem never actually kills me, and then I can beat this golem. Alright, so we get this lovely cutscene here. And they sort of like lock us off from the time gate, like they seal it up there. So we're sort of like stranded and trapped outside. But now that our pendant is powered up, this is really cool. You've got all these doors and treasure chests and stuff in the game. All those black doors and black chests that we saw before, we can now open all of those. So at this point, I'm going to take a side tangent and actually go and get every single one of those chests and doors that will be useful to us. Don't feel like you have to do this, but there are some very strong items in all those doors and chests, so it's worth doing if you can. There's also the concept of upgrading the chests. So it's kind of weird, but with the chests, you'll come across them in 600 AD, and you'll get the option whether or not to open those chests. So if you actually hit no in 600 AD, and then come back and find the chests in the year 1000 AD, you can get the upgraded weapon in those chests. So that's sort of what I'll be doing in this demonstration. I'll be saying no to all these chests that I'm finding here, which is going to look really weird. But then we'll come back and find those same chests in the year 1000 AD. So I'll take you through. There aren't too many of them, but it's probably good to do, especially if you're feeling a bit weak at this point in the game. There's some really good armor and stuff in these chests. So we're going to go up through the forest, and there's a chest on the right here. We get a speed tab, so that's always good. I like to use them on Robo, because Robo is Slobo. And we'll head out of the forest here. So we're going to head down through this bridge, and we're going to head into that cave that we originally opened with the Masamune, with that like awesome cutscene with Frog. So we got a magic ring there, which is always really good. Magic rings sort of make our magic spells stronger when we use them, so that's a really good item to have. We're going to go to the Elder's house, and there's a couple chests in here. So you'll see something is inside, but it's reacting. What we're going to do is say no to opening these. It's really important that we do that, because we'll come back to the Elder's house in the year 1000 AD, and then when we open the chest then, there's going to be a much better item in there, because we've said no here. Alright, we're going to go to the Truce Inn, and there's again another chest in this area here. But we're going to say no to that as well. So those 3 chests there I've just said no to. Then also we're going to head back up through Gerudo Forest into the castle. I did forget there's also a chest in the castle here, so I'll go off and grab that. It's sort of on the left stairwell here. You can get that normal chest there, but then this one in here. Something's reacting. Again, we want to say no to that. Alright, so we're going to head back through this time portal, and now we said no to all these chests in the year 600. What we're going to do is we're going to go to Leene Square in the year 1000, which is sort of that area where we started the game. And now that we're back in the year 1000, what we're going to do is we're going to sort of like go to all those chests that we said no to, and then instead say yes to those chests. So that's how we're going now. First one we get is in Truce Inn. That's pretty straightforward. You just go up the stairs and there's a chest there. So it's a blue vest that powered up into a blue mail. So the blue mail is like the strongest armor we have so far. We're also going to get like the red mail and etc. Blue mail will protect against water-based attacks really well. So not only does it have really high defense, but it has some good protections against particular types of magic as well. So similarly, we got white vest powering up and black vest powering up. I think white is lightning magic that it protects against. I'm not 100% sure. But anyway, I'll head back up. Now, I'm actually going to swap in Marl, and there's a really good reason for this. So, you'll get ambushed in the castle and sort of kicked out if you're not with Marley. Like, because she's in royalty, she'll, like, be able to go into the castle and stuff. And there's one of those chests that we powered up in the castle. So, we're going to go and grab that. So we're going to head up these stairs on the left there, and go sort of up here and grab that. But yeah, there's this black chest here, and it's a red vest which is powered up into the red mail. So you can see we sort of got those 4 mails, and like all 4 of them are the same defense, but that defense is really, really high. So I'm going to swap Frog back into the party there, and eventually we'll equip those mails, and it's going to just make the game a lot easier for us to deal with. So that's sort of the chest situation that's been dealt with, and I'm just going to swap in those mails now. Doesn't really matter which is on which, because if we have all 3 mails on, then it's pretty much the same. Alright, so back up here, we're going to go through the time portal. Alright, now we've done that, we're going to head into Medina village at 1000 AD. So again, there's another sort of thing we can open with our powered up pendant here. And this one's really, really cool. We're going to head up into this forest here. And this whole big pyramid thing we get to open with the pendant. So when you open this pyramid, you're actually going to get a choice here. So you can choose to get this really strong sword for Chrono. Or you can choose to get this really strong armor. Now, I've opted for the sword in this playthrough, and from what I've read online, it looks like pretty quickly you're going to find other armors which are stronger than this strong armor thing. But it's actually a really long time until you find a sword which is stronger than the Swallow. So that's why I went for that Swallow sword. It's because it's more relevant for a longer time in the game. And we always like higher damage output. So now that we've done that, we're going to head back out here. And we're going to head into Proto Dome. And you'll notice there were all those doors that we couldn't open before, like those big black doors, like with the symbol on them. So we're going to go to all those individual doors and open them up. So to actually do this, what we need to do first is like head back through this lab. So it's going to be a little bit of a trek, but we'll make our way past this car driving section here. And we're going to head back out. We're going to head into Aristome, and then we're going to head in here, because there's like a door in here that we can open up and get some goodies. So the cool thing is they planted that seed, and the seed sort of sprouted, so it's nice. Now you're going to go through there. That was the little console before that we used L, R, and A to enter the code on. Then we're going to head back up through this section here. Yeah, and we're going to go to this console and hit L, R, and A again. That took me a little while to figure out when I first played this. But we'll go through the door there, and then we got lots of goodies. Now the gold earring is actually like really good. What it does is it reduces the actual amount of magic you use when you use tech by quite a lot. I think it's like 75% or something. It's absolutely crazy. So essentially, once you equip someone with the gold earring, what you can do is use like tech with them pretty much every single turn, and you'll not really run out of MP because it's using so little MP. So you'll get the gold earring and also the silver earring in this game, and both are very highly worth equipping in my opinion. Alright, so I'm just going to go to the shop here and stock up on some revives. They're pretty important to get, and also shelters. Anyway, we're sort of done in this area, so what we're going to do is head back to the left through lab 16. This is a reverse of what we did before. Then we're going to head into this dome and open up the door. A couple goodies in there. Then we're going to head down and we're going to open up another door in this section underneath. So in Tran Dome here. Again, I'm going to stock up on some mid tonics here. Mid tonics are pretty good to have, especially if you don't have somebody with healing tech available. So we're going to head up through this door here. And a couple goodies in here. Alright, now I've just taken that portal back. The reason that I've actually done that is because it sort of unlocks the portal in the end of time whenever you take the portal. So then I'm actually going to head back to this forest here and just get this little chest. So there's a little powering in there, which I think we already have a powering anyway, but it's worth doing it for completion's sake. I'm just going to equip that to Chrono because why not? We're then going to head back to that portal we just took, actually. And that'll bring us back to the future. So now that we're back in the future, we're going to head to the right through this lab. Now, you'll remember before that we went through that sewer area, and I said you don't need to do that quite yet, but we did it before. So that's sort of where we're heading next, through that sewer, and that's where we'll go to the next progression point of the game. Alright, so heading to the right through the sewer. Now, if you did this before, then you can take a pretty quick path through there, like I'm doing here. But if you didn't do it before, then it's pretty straightforward to get through. It shouldn't be too confusing, but you can look back earlier on the video if you need some help getting through it. But we're going to open this door here. Now, this door is sort of the real important one. There's all these little bits and pieces through here. And then we're going to open the door there. And we get this device called the Epoch. You actually get to name it yourself. So that's pretty cool. You then sort of make your way out, and this new sort of helps you out. So it turns out this new is like a human that's copied itself into the body of the new, so it's like all pretty hectic. But anyway, you name the Epoch and then you can hop in it. That lets you travel between any time period, so you'll sort of jump in there and it gives you the option to like go to any time period very easily, which is very fantastic. So we sort of end up at the end of time here. And then we can use the Epoch to travel around. You'll notice some new options like 1999 9 is like the Apocalypse, which could bring you to the end of the game, and that would be where you fight Lavos. We're much too weak to fight Larvos at this point. But anyway, you want to go left and get to Terror Cave when you bring the Epoch into this time period. And then once we're in Terror Cave, we can sort of talk to all these people. These guys have some stuff that's worth buying, so it's worth just checking in on them if you can. I'm going to buy and equip all the optimal stuff here. But again, make sure you have like mid-tonics and revives and shelters and everything. Eventually going to head out of this cave, sort of down this area. Then you're going to rest up. And you'll head out here. So we're almost done heading out of this cave. We're just going to keep heading up through this area. But you're going to head onto this chain thing. And that chain brings you to the floating island that you might have seen up on the map before. So the floating island is sort of our next destination. So we're actually back in the year 12,000 BC, even though the portal was closed off for us. So that's a little bit controversial, so I'm sure the people who kicked us out of this time period won't be too happy to find out we're back here again. But we'll make our way up the chain here, and you're going to get into lots of different fights along this chain. So I'll sort of just zoom through this section. It's fairly linear, just make sure you're grabbing treasure chests along the way where you can, and going through any fights that you need to. And eventually we'll get to the top of this chain section. Alright, so we're going to go through the top of this chain section. You'll come across this boss here. This boss has some arms, and you got to like kill the arms first and then work on the head. One actually really good character for this boss is Ayla. I forget what the attack's called, but she has like this kick that goes to the right, and it like goes to the right through both arms, and it's really good at hitting both of them at once, but doing a lot of damage all at once. But you can see I'm going to take out the arms first here, and then we'll work on the head. So boss fight, you can pretty much just go through with that strategy that I've outlined there. Take out the right arm, then the left arm, then you can work on the head. I believe it does revive its arms, but when it does revive its arms, they come back slightly weaker, so it's not too hard to take them out again. If you try and just attack the head first, then you're not going to have a very good time with this fight. So this dude's sort of hanging out here, and they're building the Ocean Palace, so that's sort of the plot line that's going on with all this. There's a lot of story behind it. So we'll head out of this cave, and then we're going to head into the Skyway here. That's unlocked. So again, you're going to hear the best song in the game up here. But we'll head up to this main area, and we're going to go up to the up to basically where we got kicked out of the time period before. So that very top building in the floating islands. Alright, so we fight Doubton. See, I'm pretty much going to use these attacks. Use Bubble Snap on him. Now Doubton will have a counter attack, so eventually he says go ahead, try and attack. You don't want to attack him in that period of time, but just keep chucking through the fight and you'll make it through. So Doubton's not very happy that you've beaten him. You're going to come down to this Ocean Palace here. And we're going to sort of make our way through this sub-dungeon. This is a pretty hectic area, like it's fairly long and fairly difficult. This room here has a lot of different corners that you can go through. So you can see I'll go through like the bottom right corner I think first, and there's treasures in there. So you want to go in all four corners. And it's not super obvious that there's doorways in a lot of them, but there are doorways in a lot of them. So you'll go through all four corners here, and that's sort of the first section of this area. Alright, then you're going to go into that area there, and you're going to hit a switch which opens up the downwards path. Once you've opened up the downwards path, you're just going to head through this fairly linear section here. Going down a lot of stairs, fighting a lot of boss fights, you know how it is. You're going to get cutscenes about what they're doing with the Mammon machine. Then you'll hop onto this elevator. The elevator has a lot of boss fights on it, like a lot of enemies, so you're just going to fight those as you're working your way down the elevator. Just be sure that you're saving at all the save points you come across, just in case you die or something, you want to respawn back at those save points. Also, make sure you've stocked up on shelters before you do this, because with the shelters, you can heal yourself up fully at a save point. Alright, so at the bottom of the elevator, we're sort of going to like come to this room. Now, these you have to hit with various different kinds of magic. So, Chrono will hit the yellow ones with lightning. Frog will hit the blue ones with water, and if we had Luca, she'd hit the red ones with fire, but unfortunately we just have to attack the fire one normally. So we're not really fighting those as optimally as we could, but luckily it's 2 out of 3 we can do pretty optimally. Anyway, you want to hit that button in the middle, and then you want to go up through this section, hit the save point, and then get into a boss fight. This is 2 golems, so you can use my strategy that I outlined before. I would use Lightning 2 with Chrono. Now Lightning 2 hits all enemies, so that sort of makes them both copy the lightning tech. Then I would do a physical attack with Frog and Robo, but make sure you do it to different golems. So that's sort of the strategy here. You want to keep swapping the attacks you're actually hitting them with, because that will help you make sure they never actually do that strong attack, because they don't have enough time to do it. By the time they would be doing that strong attack, then you've made them swap attack forms and reset that timer anyway. So you'll see occasionally I'm using Laser Spin as Robo. And when I'm using Laser Spin as Robo, I'm then following that with a physical attack from Chrono and Frog to each golem. So Laser Spin would make them copy the Shadow tech, and then the physical attacks would make them copy physical. So we're beating him, and we're going to head up into this area with this. And then they summon Lavos. So this is like the final boss of the game, but we're not going to win. Larvos is pretty much going to kill us straight away. So this part of the game is pretty hectic, I gotta say. So Magus rocks up and then tries to beat Lavos, but isn't successful. And unfortunately, Lavos is going to kill Chrono. So we're not going to have Chrono in our party anymore. Chrono is gone. So yeah, that's actually a very sad part of the game and pretty full on, but we have lost Chrono. We're going to pick up that item that we get from Chrono. But yeah, Lavos is basically causing the apocalypse to happen in 12,000 BC. So the fact that these people have tried to build the Ocean Palace and summon Lavos themselves was not a great idea, because, well, now they brought forward the apocalypse by 14,000 years. So not smart. But anyway, Chrono is gone. We're stuck without Chrono here. So we're just going to be Frog for now and Robo essentially, which were the 2 that we had. Then we're going to sort of go on a quest to find a couple more characters, but hopefully get back Chrono eventually if we can. Alright, so you're stocking up on a couple items, and you want to go to this area left of town. You want to talk to all these different people here. You'll get into like a little fight there, and you'll get pulled into jail. So the jail is on the Blackbird, which is pretty full on. It's a lot harder to break out of than the previous jails, but it's not too hard. There's an air vent that you can crawl up in, essentially. So when you crawl up in the air vent, you can sort of look through the gaps and have a look at what's going on down underneath you. You don't need to do that too much. Pretty much all you need to do is find the stairwell, which brings you out. So there's a stairwell here, and that's sort of what we can use to escape this area. Now, it's actually pretty funny because they actually do take away all of your weapons in this area. So unlike the previous jail where they left Chrono with his sword, they have taken away everything. So we have no items, we have no weapons or armor, we don't even have any money, we've got nothing. So I think that's why they put Ayla into your party, actually, because Ayla is very good at attacking with her bare hands. And if we didn't have Ayla, we'd have a very rough time getting through this section. But eventually, you're just going to go around and basically go in all the doors you can. At various different points, you're going to get different items. So you're going to get back your money, and then your items, and then your armor, and then pretty much everything at that point. So we'll go through and we'll get all those different ones. Just be sure. I think there's 4 that you get back, like 4 different types of things. So make sure you get all 4 of these chests. For example, like this chest here would be the items that we got back. But eventually, once you've raided out all that area, you can sort of head up here. And there's this door that you can go through, which has like an air duct in it. So you want to go up that door, and that sort of brings you out onto the wing of the ship. And this is where we're going to progress the story even further. So if you sort of go towards the bottom of the ship here, you're actually going to get into another boss fight with a golem. So I don't know what it is with this game and golems, but they really like them. So we're going to be sort of like fighting this golem. It's a similar strategy to the other one, but I don't know, it behaves a little bit differently. So I was just attacking it normally, and it went down pretty easily. So anyway, you're going to fight the golem, and then you'll cut to this cutscene of Doubton, who's sort of like beefing up the epoch and making it fly, which is honestly pretty awesome. So you're going to see when you look over the wing, he's like flying around on that thing. So what you actually end up doing, this is all a cutscene, you end up like jumping onto it and then fighting him. He's pretty easy to beat actually. Then once you beat him, well, the epoch is yours, and he's upgraded it to do flying, which is awesome. So what we thought was a big kidnapping plot that was setting us a step back actually helped us get this cool upgrade, which is that now the epoch can fly. So you can pretty much fly it around any time period, and then at any point that you want, you can press Y to warp to another time period. So at this point, we've got very much free reign over the entire game, which is absolutely awesome. You're going to get a couple upgrades here for whatever characters we're using. And then we're going to go up to this mountain area here, talk to these guys, but we're going to go up to this North Cape, which is the top left bit. And we're going to click that dot there and Magus will rock up. So my advice here, I think there's two different endings you can get based on what you say here, but you pretty much want to say that you don't want to fight Magus. And if you do that, Magus is going to join your party. And he's sort of your Chrono replacement, so to speak. Alright, so it also turns out that Magus is Janus from 12,000 BC. So Magus warped through time to 600 AD and then sort of like became this evil dude who was like fighting wars and stuff. But yeah, he was like a little kid when you met him in 12,000 BC. So yeah, you say you don't want to fight him and then he joins your party. I'm going to go with a Magus Robo Frog because that's a pretty good combination. I also like to put Magus first in the party because like the way that he walks is really cool. Like he just floats along the ground, which I find pretty interesting. Alright, so Magus is going to be freaking out because this is like the ocean palace here. So what's happened is rather than being underwater, it's like come up above water. And then, yeah, there it is. So that area there, like if we went into that right now, that would be sort of the true ending of the game. Like there's so many different endings, but that's considered the best one. So when we come to beat the game, we will actually do that ending. So I've just walked back to the end of time here. And now we've got Magus. We're going to talk to this old dude. And he's very upset that Chrono is gone. So eventually he'll just chug through a bunch of dialogue. And what he's going to do is he's going to give us the item called the Chrono Trigger. Which is funny because that's the name of the game. So we got the C trigger there. I'm going to heal up and head back. So what we're going to do is sort of go through a little bit of subplot about like trying to get Chrono back. So the old dude is alluding to the fact that we might be able to get Chrono back somehow. And we're going to sort of go through those motions. So here, like if you want, you can talk to that cat there and the cat will follow along Magus because the cat was Janus's cat in the past. So like if you talk to that with Magus, then like it's just like a cool little Easter egg that will follow you around. But anyway, to start going through the motions of getting Chrono back, what we need to do is we need to head to the year 1000. So we'll do that, and then we're going to fly to the fair. Now you can do this at any point in the game, but essentially what we're going to do is get a clone of Chrono. Now it's almost sort of just like a doll, which looks like Chrono, but that's absolutely key in getting Chrono back. Now the first part of this process is getting a bunch of silver points, because we do need quite a few silver points to actually play this carnival game and get the Chrono clone. So I'm going to fight this silver robot quite a few times. We'll get a lot of points here. I think he gives you like 15 each time. Anyway, once we've done enough of those fights, what we're going to do is head out, and we're going to go down through the fair and to the right. Now we're going to go into this sort of space here, and this dude is going to tell you that like he'll let you play the game to get a clone of Chrono, even though you don't have Chrono, which is like an exception. But what you got to do is like watch what this Chrono clone does and copy the moves based on the buttons that he's told you to press for whatever move it is. So if you can sort of copy those moves well enough and win the game, you will get this clone of Chrono. And that's sort of the first step in getting Chrono back. So now that we've done that, we're going to head out of the fair. Now we're going to go to Chrono's house because the clone itself was actually delivered to Chrono's house. So we're going to go and pick that up. Alright, now we're in the epoch again. We're going to head through to the future. And you can see the Black Omen is in the future as well. It's sort of there at all times of the game. So there's different things that can happen if you go into it at different times. But we're going to go through this door here. And then we're going to go through... This is sort of like where we found the epoch. We're going to talk to this dude here. And this dude will know more about getting Chrono back. So he's talking about Death Peak. And he said that we need the clone, which we have. But he's going to give us these... like little guys who are going to fly up onto Death Peak. Now essentially those 3 little white dudes are going to turn into trees on Death Peak, and you've got to hide behind those trees. We weren't able to climb Death Peak before, but now that they've turned into trees, we can hide behind them and sort of get to the top. So this is sort of like our next main area of the game that we're going here. Alright, there's lots of enemies here. One thing that I'd recommend is this trio of enemies here. I ended up using it for grinding quite a lot later on in the game. Because I think it's like Robo's laser beam or Chrono's lightning 2 or something like that can be used to take out these enemies very, very quickly. So you can take out those 3 enemies in one shot and you basically get 1,000 experience points in one hit. I don't know if that's the best spot to grind, but for me that's a very good spot that I managed to find. So that's the one I ended up using later on in this playthrough. But at any rate, you're just going to keep walking to the end of Death Peak, grabbing all the power-ups and items you can as you go along. You're going to come across these mini Lavos spawns. So what I found was that when I was attacking the spikes, it was doing this brutal counter attack. So probably try not to attack the spikes too much if you can. Just keep attacking the head. I find it kind of cool that you're fighting like a baby version of the final boss in the game as well. Nice little touch. Moving along through this section. Eventually you'll get to this point where you need to use the shell of the Lavos spawn to get to a new area. So once you kill this one, it's going to leave its shell behind. So then you sort of like push the shell and use it to hop up onto this section here. You're going to get to the top of this section here, and that's sort of our goal of this bit. So you bring the chrono trigger with you, and it shatters, and it sort of like opens up this time rift. Now, where you are now is you're at the point where Chrono died and time's sort of frozen, so it's pretty cool what you do. You like swap out Chrono with the clone of Chrono, and then you take the real one back with you. So that's sort of how you get Chrono back, which is really cool in my opinion. So Chrono comes back and rejoins your party, and it's all very happy and joyful. Alright, now at this point we have to choose for somebody to leave our party as well. So I think what I do is I leave Robo behind and I go for a Chrono Magus frog party eventually. Magus is really good. He's got lots of good good magic abilities, and eventually he'll learn this dark type magic ability, which is pretty fantastic. So at this point you're like almost ready to go to the end of the game. Now, you sort of have unlocked side quests for each character. Which is kind of cool. And I'll show you Magus's side quest here. We'll just do this one in this playthrough, but each different character has a different side quest to do, and you can get various different things from doing the side quest. So you fly back to this time period, and you want to go to Ozzy's castle. It's no longer Magus's castle, and we'll sort of work through this side quest here. But at any rate, you just fight these two. And you keep going through all of Ozzy's traps. But you'll make your way up sort of towards the end of Ozzy's castle in no time. So you'll fight all 3 at once. And eventually you'll take him out. Alright, now you got to hit those switches with Ozzy. So once you've hit enough of them, you'll sort of go through to this next area. And that's Magus' side quest done. So as you can see, the side quests are pretty like short. If you want to do what's considered 100%ing the game, you can do all the side quests, but you don't get a whole lot from them, so I'm not going to show them here. But just be aware that each different character does have a different side quest, and there's lots of like optional stuff that you can do in this game, so if I showed you all of it, we'd be here all day. The cool thing about doing Magus' side quests though is that all the stuff in this shop is sold for really, really cheap. So this ends up being like the cheapest shop in the game, and that's partially why I've done Magus' side quest. And because previously in that shop, the shopkeepers don't like you because you were like anti-Magus, and they charge like billions of dollars for the items. But now they do like you and they don't. So what I'm going to do here is essentially go through to the good ending of the game. There are lots of different endings, so it's hard to say whether one is good or bad. But from what I've heard, it seems like one of the best endings you can get is by going to the Black Omen in 12,000 BC, which is what I've done here, and sort of working through that and, yeah, like chugging through that and beating Lavos there, which is exactly what we're going to do. So it's a fairly linear place that we'll get through, but I will show you the majority of it. It turns out that I realized pretty far into this that I wasn't leveled up enough to actually beat Larvos. So if you look at the sort of health numbers that I've got here and the level that I'm at now, this is not enough. So if your stats look something like this, you need to level up way more, which I found out the hard way when I did this playthrough. But anyway, I'm going to make it all the way through the Black Omen here, and then we'll sort of see what happens towards the end of that. If you really want, you can actually just go and fight Lavos straight away. There's like this bucket thing in the end of time, and if you click that bucket, you'll go straight to the Lavos fight, and you can beat that there and win the game. You don't have to go through the Black Omen. Also, if you're just in the Epoch and you take a trip to the end of time, sorry, not the end of time, 1999, you'll fight Lavos there as well. But yeah, there's just lots of different options for beating the game, because you can pretty much go to the Black Omen in any time period and fight Larvos there. So that's a cool thing about Chrono Trigger. There's always more and more to do by getting different endings in the game. Anyway, we'll keep working through the Black Omen here. You're going to take this elevator and fight more and more enemies on it. We're then going to sort of get up into this area here where there's some treasures and work our way through. Little save point there, and these news are pretty good for selling you good things. But yeah, there's not really a whole lot to say about this area. I mean, it's very linear, the Black Omen. There's lots of high level enemies here, so it is a good place to sort of go and try and level up. So yeah, just keep that in mind towards the end of the game. There is an item that you can get, I forget exactly what it's called, but if you wear it, it's like a ring or an accessory or something that ups your maximum health by 50%. So if you put on that item, that could help you against some of the bosses that are dealing like really big damage to you towards the end of the game, so it might be worth considering. I think I actually did that on one of the characters. So eventually going to come to the end of this section, you'll get into a fight with Zeal. I like to use Spire with Chrono and Frog, and then we'll use the Dark Magic with Magus. But you'll make it through this eventually. One thing to keep in mind is that when Frog's at low health, you can use this attack that is really strong when he's at low health, so that's something really good that you can use. I kept him at 1 HP for a really long time for that reason, because you can just deal lots of damage really. So you'll actually fight the Mammon machine itself. And then once you get through that, we're sort of going to get to the end of the game with Lavos. So you'll keep fighting that and eventually win. You'll then fight this boss here with the hands. So I was pretty much just attacking the face with various characters, and that seemed to do the job pretty well. This boss will take you quite a while to beat, but you'll eventually get through it. And once you do this, they're going to summon Lavos, and what Lavos does in this fight is it sort of takes on the form of all the other bosses that you've beaten in the game so far. So you sort of got to just go back through all these strategies that you're using for those bosses and apply those to whatever Lavos is doing at the time. So it'll be quite a while until you get through it. It's actually an extremely long fight, so it can be pretty frustrating if you die halfway through it or something. But you'll keep fighting Lavos, and then eventually you'll actually fight it properly. Alright, so this is pretty much the last boss that it does, which was that one that had the arms on top of that like chain island thing. So you make it through that, and then you'll fight the actual Larvos itself. So I just keep trying to use your strongest attacks there, make sure you're all healed up really. Alright, and you'll actually beat its head at this point. So you're going to go inside Lavos. Now, as I mentioned before, I realized pretty quickly that I was nowhere near a high enough level to actually fight the final form of Lavos, which is inside here. So I just took the time warp back, honestly, and did a whole bunch of grinding. So what I did was, I fought the magic dude first, but then eventually I went to that death peak thing in the future, and I just grinded on those enemies for a really long time with these 3 characters. So I'll show you a bit of what that looked like, but essentially it was just coming in and Magus would use lightning 2 on them, and I'd just do that over and over and over again and eventually level up quite a bit. Chrono learns a magic called Lumiere, which is really, really good. It's like a pretty strong lightning attack, so I'd recommend getting to that point at least. Anyway, after a real huge amount of grinding, I went back to the end of time and just took the bucket entrance. So you jump in there, and that sort of brings you back to what you were doing before. Ideally, you'd beat Larvos all in one hit from the end of the Black Omen, but this is the ending that I took, so that's sort of what I went about and did. So Larvos' head is still gone, so that part of it's beaten, but you got to go inside it and have the proper fight. Now, the reason that I need to level up so much is really this one big attack that it does at the start. It's really, really hectic, and it does so much damage to everyone. But yeah, then you just start like reviving everyone and healing up everyone pretty much. The level that I'm at now is probably about the lowest level you could realistically fight Larvos. You'd want to be a lot higher than what you can see me at now. I pretty much just keep attacking at it, killing its arms as much as you can. Because once you killed its arms, it's going to be able to do less damage to you overall. But yeah, then you attack the central portion of it, and that's sort of how you go about the fight. It is an incredibly long fight, just because of how much health Larvos has, and you got to sort of just be on top of curing yourself up and healing yourself. So after Larvos is beaten in this form, what happens is he sort of goes into this form here. So the form on the left, you sort of have to use physical attacks on, and the bit on the right you have to use magic attacks on. So my general strategy for this is I like to do physical attacks to the one on the left and sort of deal with that first, and then do like combined attacks to the one on the right. And this fight took me a very long time to beat, but eventually we got through it. So you can see I've beaten the one on the left there, and then we sort of do those combined attacks to these 2 on the right, but then it restores the one on the left again, so you have to kill that other one very quickly. It will do a lot of damage to you very quickly. Now, frustratingly, even if you kill the center bit of Larvos, it still can revive the center bit. So all 3 bits can sort of revive each other, so it can be very frustrating to deal with, and you have to kill all 3 pretty much at the exact same time. So try and coordinate that, but realistically that left bit is the most easy one to kill, so you want to keep dealing with that and then deal with the other 2 as you go. Eventually you'll get it, but if you can't get this, just go back and keep trying to level up more and more and more, and you will eventually be able to beat Lavos. It's just a matter of getting to that high enough level. But I beat all 3 of those bits here. I won't spoil the ending too much in this walkthrough, but that's essentially the end of the game. So you will get different endings depending how you beat Lavos, like whether you went on the bucket, whether you went to the end of time in the epoch, or whether you went through the Black Omen in various different time periods. If you want to do 100% of this game, then you do all the side quests, but the main thing is just sort of looking at all the different endings that you can get and sort of experimenting around with that. I'm hoping you found this useful, and if you did, then a subscription is always appreciated to the channel as it helps out a lot, and I should have more videos coming out like this soon. Thanks so much for watching.